Have you ever wondered what caused the First World War? This cataclysmic event was not just the result of a single act, but rather a series of intertwined factors that ultimately ignited the flames of war. One of the key ingredients was nationalism, a powerful sentiment that bound people together under a shared identity. This sense of unity, while fostering pride and patriotism, also fueled rivalry and resentment among different nations. Then, there was imperialism. The major powers of the time were engaged in a mad scramble to expand their territories and influence. This imperialistic hunger for power and resources created a tense atmosphere, ripe for conflict. Militarism, too, played its part. As nations built up their armies and navies in a show of strength and dominance, the world became an increasingly dangerous powder keg. The belief that military power was the ultimate problem solver was a dangerous illusion that led us closer to war. And of course, we cannot forget about the alliance system. This intricate web of treaties and agreements designed to maintain a balance of power ended up dividing Europe into two hostile camps. On one side, the Allies, which included nations like France, the United Kingdom, and Russia. On the other, the Central Powers, comprising Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, among others. However, the spark that lit this volatile mix was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. This event shook the world, setting off a domino effect of diplomatic failures and military mobilizations. The murder of the Archduke was not just a tragic loss, but a catalyst that transformed simmering tensions into outright war. It was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, triggering a global conflict that would change the course of history. So, with the stage set by these tensions and alliances, the world was on the brink of a catastrophic war. This was the beginning of the First World War, a conflict that would reshape our world in ways that still reverberate to this day. Now, let's delve into the progression of the war. The Western Front, stretching from the Swiss border to the North Sea, was characterized by its grueling trench warfare. Soldiers on both sides found themselves entrenched in a stalemate, living and fighting in the muddy, treacherous conditions of the trenches. Key battles, such as Verdun and the Somme, resulted in massive loss of life, with millions of soldiers tragically falling in the line of duty. The Eastern Front, on the other hand, was a different beast altogether. Russia, in a titanic struggle against Germany, the Ottoman Empire and Austria-Hungary faced a series of devastating losses. The Battle of Tannenberg stands out as a significant event where the German forces dealt a crushing blow to the Russian Second Army, altering the course of the war on this front. Yet, the war was not confined to Europe alone. It was truly a global conflict, touching every corner of the world, from the deserts of the Middle East to the waters of the Atlantic. The Gallipoli campaign, for instance, saw a hard-fought battle between Allied forces and the Ottoman Empire, marking a significant moment in the war's broader narrative. Far from the front lines on the high seas, the naval warfare was another crucial aspect of this war. The British Royal Navy's blockade of Germany and the subsequent unrestricted submarine warfare by Germany had far-reaching implications, even drawing the United States into the conflict. As the war raged on, it was clear that this was a conflict unlike any the world had ever seen. The scale, the devastation, the sheer global reach of the war was unprecedented. This was not just a war of nations, it was a war of empires, of ideologies, and of the world itself. And as the battles raged and the fronts shifted, the world held its breath, unsure of what the future would bring, but certain that nothing would ever be the same again. The First World War saw the introduction of new and deadly technologies. This era was a crucible of innovation, but these advancements, initially conceived to protect and serve, were harnessed for destruction on an unprecedented scale. The war's battlefields witnessed a dramatic evolution in weaponry. Rifles, once the mainstay of infantry, became more powerful and accurate. The bolt-action rifles used by most of the armies involved could hit targets hundreds of meters away, making open field battles a thing of the past. Artillery, too, underwent significant changes. Quick-firing guns could launch a storm of shells, turning the battlefield into a deadly hailstorm of metal. These artillery pieces became the great killers of the war, responsible for more deaths than any other weapon. Then there were the tanks, these mechanical beasts, a terrifying new addition to the battlefield. They were designed to break the deadlock of trench warfare, able to cross rough terrain and barbed wire, providing cover for advancing infantry. And who could forget the airplanes? Once a novelty, they became a new platform for warfare. Planes were used for reconnaissance, then for bombing raids, and eventually fighters took to the skies, engaging in aerial dogfights. But perhaps the most horrifying innovation was the use of chemical weapons. Gas attacks introduced a new level of terror to the battlefield. The effects were gruesome, causing blindness, severe skin blisters, and a slow, choking death. It was a weapon that showed war's ugliest face. Yet, amidst the destruction, there were also advancements in military health services. Ambulances, field hospitals, and casualty clearing stations were established. Medical procedures improved, and the role of nurses was expanded. These developments helped save many lives, a small glimmer of hope in such a dark time. These technological advancements, while innovative, resulted in a war of unprecedented devastation. The First World War forever changed the face of warfare, introducing technologies that would shape conflicts for the century to come. This was the brutal paradox of the era, a testament to human ingenuity and a stark reminder of its destructive potential. When the dust settled, the First World War had profound and lasting impacts. The toll was heavy. Millions of lives were lost, cities were razed to the ground, economies were shattered. The world had seen the face of modern warfare, and it was brutal. The human losses were staggering. Over 10 million soldiers and 7 million civilians perished. Countless others were left physically and mentally scarred. The destruction was widespread, with whole cities and towns obliterated. Economies of nations were in ruins, with billions spent on war efforts, depleting national reserves and causing rampant inflation. In the wake of such devastation, it was clear that the world needed to come to terms with the aftermath. The Treaty of Versailles was signed, aiming to ensure lasting peace. It imposed heavy reparations on Germany, assigned responsibility for the war, and redrew national boundaries. However, it sowed seeds of resentment, setting the stage for the Second World War. The war also led to the collapse of empires. The Ottoman Empire, which had been a major power for 6 centuries, crumbled. Its territories were carved up, leading to the establishment of new states in the Middle East. This redrawing of the map brought about significant political and social changes, the effects of which are still evident today. The war's impact extended beyond the immediate aftermath. It marked the end of the colonial era, as colonized nations began to demand independence. The balance of power shifted, heralding the beginning of change in international relations. The League of Nations was formed, aiming to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. Yet, its failure to maintain peace is a stark reminder of the complexities of global diplomacy. The First World War was a watershed event in human history. It changed the world politically, socially, and economically. It showed the destructive potential of modern warfare and the need for diplomacy and cooperation. The First World War truly reshaped the world in ways still felt to this day. The First World War was a pivotal moment in world history. It was a conflict that truly shook the world to its core, causing ripples that we still feel today. The war was a culmination of escalating tensions, nationalistic fervor, and intricate alliances, all of which intertwined to create a cataclysmic event that would forever change the course of history. The war saw the fall of empires, the birth of new nations, and the reshaping of global politics. The Ottoman Empire, once a mighty force, crumbled, giving rise to new states in the Middle East. The map of Europe was redrawn, and the seeds of future conflicts were sown. The First World War also marked a dramatic shift in warfare technology. The introduction of new weaponry, from machine guns to tanks, transformed the battlefield, making war a more destructive and devastating endeavor. The use of chemical weapons introduced a new level of horror to warfare, one that underscored the need for rules and regulations in combat. But perhaps the most profound impact of World War I was the sheer human cost. The war claimed the lives of millions and left countless others physically and psychologically scarred. The war reminded us of the devastating consequences of conflict and the invaluable importance of maintaining peace. The war also led to significant advancements in various fields. Medical developments were made out of necessity, revolutionizing healthcare on and off the battlefield. The war also sparked significant social and cultural changes, including shifts in women's roles in society and the workforce. Reflecting on World War I, we are reminded of the importance of peace and the prevention of wars. We are reminded that diplomacy, understanding, and cooperation are crucial in maintaining global stability and harmony. The lessons from this war serve as stark reminders of the consequences of conflict and the significance of peace. As we look back, we see that the lessons of the First World War are as relevant today as they were over a century ago. Until next time, keep exploring history.